Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. In today's video, I'll be using some new craft mats from scrapbook.com. The first one is their maker's mat. This is a non-stick silicone mat. It's 14.5 inches by 16.5 inches. It also includes a collapsible, removable cup with bristles on the bottom, so it makes it easy to clean your brushes. This mat is perfect for all kinds of different projects, mixed media, watercoloring, stencil, stamping, and it cleans up so easily. So here I'm showing how to use it with a stencil. Since it is made out of silicone, it holds onto that paper so it doesn't move around. Now I'm not doing a full card right here, I'm just showing some different uses of the mat. You can get ink all over your mat and it wipes away easily. I am holding down my stencil lightly, but the paper is not moving at all. So you can wipe ink directly onto the mat. I found it's really fun to do some ink smushing. I just stamped some ink directly onto my mat, sprayed some water. Now I'm just mixing it up with my brush. Then I'll take that piece of paper, press it right onto the ink. The mat is non-stick, waterproof, and even heat resistant. So you can do all your heat embossing right over the mat and not worry about it warping. My daughter is already eyeing my mat to do some watercolor projects, and it'll be perfect since she won't make a big mess on the table. If you like to use watercolor paints, you can add some into the wells at the top of the mat. Here I'm using some of scrapbook.com's Pops of Color. I just recently learned you can add water to the pops of color and paint with them. Thought it would be fun to even do a little bit of ink smushing. I think I got too much water this time, but it still has that really fun look. And since it's pops of color, it'll also add that little bit of shine. The other new mats I want to show you are the Clearly Amazing multi-use mat with a light grip. So there are 3 different sizes. You can buy them individually. You can buy them as a set, and you can also buy multiple packs. I think there's 3 each of all of the sizes. Now what's really fun, all of them fit inside the Misties. So the largest one would fit in the large Misty, then we have the regular and the mini Misty. On the front side of each of the mats, there is an acrylic covering. So when you peel this back, there is a light tacky surface. Now you do want to keep that acrylic covering. Now on the back side, there's a protective film, so you can peel that off and toss it away. The back side doesn't have that tacky surface. So here I'm using the mini Misty size. So I'll just take it out of the packaging. You can see how it fits perfectly inside my mini Misty. And it's nice that the mats have the 1-inch grid all over the back and also the measurements along the very outside. So I still have my acrylic covering on top. And here is the regular size Misty mat. So again, just place it right inside and you can see it fits perfectly. I do tend to use my mini Misty the most, but it's nice to have the regular size Misty as well. There are multiple uses for the mat, but what I think will be the most useful is to be able to put a piece of paper, maybe a circle die cut, put it on top of that tacky side inside my Misty, add my stamped image or sentiment, then I can easily ink it up multiple times and get a nice solid impression without trying to mess with the magnets and get them along the very edge. Since sometimes the sentiment or image that I'm stamping is just about as large as that die cut piece. So this way it'll stick nicely onto the mat. I can ink it those several times and then get my good solid impression. I have 3 different card ideas using both of the mats. For the first card, I'm using the maker's mat and I'll be doing some stenciling. This stencil is from scrapbook.com. This is the diamond stitch design. The cardstock I'm using is Nina Solar White. This is the 110-pound paper, and this is also sold by scrapbook.com. And I will have links for all of the products in the description box below. I'm using a plastic spatula and adding 3 different pops of color onto the background. I have Black Magic, Teal Twinkle, and Raspberry Kiss. I put down small drops of the pops of color on the stencil. Just use that spatula to rub them right through so it goes onto the paper. So while I set that aside to let it dry, I do some more ink smushing. Kind of made a mess this time. I'm using Distress Oxide ink. This is the Lucky Clover color. So after I let that dry, I'm using some Sprigs dies from scrapbook.com, and I'll cut these out from that fun ink smush background. So now that my stencil design is all dry, I did layer it on some black cardstock first. I have 5 different sprig die cut pieces all ready to go. I'm arranging them loosely on the left side of the card. Then I'm using the small size clear mat. I have the tacky side down, laying it very gently over my little sprig arrangement. I will remove that acrylic covering first, and that will help keep everything in that same position. So that I'll lift that up, put some liquid adhesive on the back of those die cut pieces, then I can lay it right back down onto my card, and all of those die cut pieces will stay in the same position. So I'm trying to get enough liquid adhesive on the back side, and the easiest way to peel this up is to sort of curl that mat. I do need to hold a couple of those die cut pieces down. I think since I'm adhering it onto some of the pops of color from the stencil, it didn't want to stay at first. You can see how I still have that same arrangement that I originally placed on my card. For the sentiment, I'm using an alphabet die set from scrapbook.com. This is the bold basic set using the uppercase. And I will be popping it up using some thin foam dimensional strips. And I wanted that really nice contrast against the background, so I decided to use some black cardstock. Put that sentiment in the lower right-hand corner. Then I'll use another pops of color. This one is the holly green, and I'll add just a small dot in the center of some of the flowers on that larger sprig die cut piece. Then for a final finishing touch, I pulled out the Raspberry Kiss pops of color again, putting a few drops on the sentiment, put a couple drops in the upper right hand corner, and then a few around my sprig die cuts. And I like to have those drops nice and flat, so I'm tapping my card lightly on my craft mat. So there is my finished card. This one was so much fun. Didn't use any pattern paper at all. Moving on to card design number 2, I will be using pattern paper since that is one of my favorite things for card making. This is the Playful collection from scrapbook.com. There are so many fun and cheerful colors in this collection. I am using a card sketch for inspiration. This is Sketch Saturday number 694. I selected 2 pattern papers for the background. For the bottom portion of the card, I have the gingham teal design, and for the other pattern paper, I selected this beautiful floral design, and there's even a couple little birds in the background. So sweet. Although I don't see any of the birds on this strip of pattern paper, but there are some on the other cards I made. For the large banner on the right side, I selected the yellow and white polka dot pattern paper. On the back side, it has a larger polka dot, so it's really nice to have those 2 options. For the narrow banner, I'm using some more of the teal cardstock. Now I'll start working on the sentiment. Pull out my mini Misty, and I've already added my small clear mat. Just remove that acrylic cover. I've cut out a stitch circle die cut. Just placed it right onto the mat. Since it does have that tacky side, it's not moving at all. I'll be adding the sentiment high. So I place my stamp right in the center of the circle. And because of that tacky surface on the mat, I was able to re-ink that stamp a couple of times without that circle die cut moving. So nice. The ink color I used is from Catherine Pooler. It's the Uptown color. So now I'll put liquid adhesive on the back of my circle die cut and add it to my card. For embellishments, I'm using the Butterflies die set from scrapbook.com. And I cut out 3 of them from some of the Smooth Solids cardstock. I have the Playful collection and also the Warms. I wanted a little lighter color for the yellow. I'll put some double-sided foam circles on the back side of each of the butterflies. Remove the release paper. I'll add the red and the peach color butterfly on top of the banners on the right side of the card and the yellow to the left of the sentiment. Then to finish up the card, I'll add some of the teal twinkle pops of color. I'll put a few of them in the upper right-hand corner and 2 in the lower left-hand corner. And I will tap my card again to flatten out those dots. And that's just a personal preference. So there is my finished card, and I did make a total of 3. The pattern paper from scrapbook.com is 6 by 8 inches in size, so it's really easy to make multiple cards. For card design number 3, I'll be doing some more stenciling. I'm using the Party Stencil set from scrapbook.com. There are 2 different stencils in this set. So I've already cut out my card front, and this is an A2 size card front. I'll be using 2 different ink colors from Catherine Pooler. I have Sparkling Berry and also Daydream. Now for a little extra confetti look on the background, after I did the first layer of stencil, I rotated that stencil, and then I used that same color and did it one more time. And I'll do the same thing with the Daydream color. So now I have a really full confetti background. Instead of having just that white in the background with the confetti, I'll use the same 2 ink colors and add just a light coat of ink all over that background. Have a little more teal on the top and then the pink on the bottom. Now I'll add the Sparkling Berry color to the lower portion. I love the look of pink and teal together. It's so pretty. Now I will go and trim down that panel. So now it's 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. Then I'll layer it on some dark teal cardstock. Put some ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. I'm not sure if I mentioned it earlier, but all of my cards in this video are American Standard A2 size, 4 1/4 inches by 5 1/2 inches. Using the nested decorative circle die set from scrapbook.com, I cut out this fun circle frame. I'll put some liquid adhesive on the back, and I'm adding it onto a vellum circle die cut. And that die cut is just slightly larger than that circle frame. And I'll carefully put liquid adhesive on the back side just behind that circle frame die cut. That way the adhesive doesn't show through on the front through the vellum. Then I'll adhere that onto my card. And by adding the vellum, it helps tone down some of that confetti background, and that will help my sentiment stand out. Next, I'll add the sentiment Yay. I'm using another alphabet die set from scrapbook.com. This is their Opposites Attract set. I love this font. It's so fun. And instead of having the sentiment all straight across, I decided to have the 2 Y's up in the center and drop down that A slightly, just for a little different look. I'll glue those down using some liquid adhesive. For a little extra detail on the sentiment, I'm using a white gel pen, and I'll add some highlights to each of the letters. In the upper left-hand corner, I'll add a small banner. I use the same dark teal cardstock, and I'll just simply cut this myself. Then I'll put liquid adhesive on the back and adhere it in place. Then to finish off the card, I'll use some more of the teal twinkle pops of color. And this is a glitter pops of color, so it has extra sparkle. Put 2 of them in the upper left-hand corner and 3 drops in the lower right-hand corner. I'll tap off that card again to flatten out those drops. So there is my finished card, and for this one I did make 2. Now here's another look at the 6 cards I made using some products from scrapbook.com along with 2 of their new craft mats. If you are interested in any of the products I used in this video, I do have links provided in the description box below. Scrapbook.com sells a huge variety of different craft products, including their own brand. If you've never checked out their website before, I highly recommend it, and I do have the link in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.